You're listening to The Reel Down, sponsored by Ketch Photo Release Tournaments. This is your premier tournament source. Here are your hosts, Sam Jones and Dan Perry. Welcome back. You're listening to The Reel Down on Paddle and Fin Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Jones. Got my co-host, Dan Perry over here. Woo-hoo. What's going on, Dan?
Not much, man. Doing good. It's been raining nonstop here, so you pretty much have to be inside. At least I got something to do. Talk to y'all.
Yeah, it's either snowing, raining, or icing here for sure. So I'm ready for it to be done and to head to Alabama. Come see you, my friend. Meet you in person.
I'm ready. Come on.
All right, well, enough about us. Let's introduce tonight's epic guest.
Epic is the word. Yeah.
You know, I honestly, I have to say, we use epic a lot, and this guy is the definition of epic. His success stories are endless, and I mean, my goodness, I mean, he's at the top of the game right now, hands
That's
down.
right.
No one can question it. He is the man. Tonight's guest, Mr. Rus Snyders.
Welcome.
Hey guys, Dan, Sam, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thanks for taking time out of, laying down the hammer and crushing everybody in tournaments to talk to a couple aspiring tournament anglers right here.
Yeah, no problem. This is should be a fun time, and I'm happy to share my knowledge here with you guys.
Well, speaking of knowledge, you definitely have a wealth of knowledge. You've been in the industry for a while now, and you've been crushing it. But you are one of the most methodical anglers I've seen in the kayak space, maybe in the bass fishing space altogether. There's been articles and videos and other podcasts about it, but we kind of want to dive into that a little bit tonight with you, and get to know you a little bit more as an angler and as a person, but also start to understand what goes through your mind and how you prep for these tournaments and these different types of tournaments, because I think anybody listening to this podcast can definitely gain something from this conversation. So I'm really excited about what we're getting ready to discuss with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely big on preparation, and definitely believe it's a key to a lot of the success I've been having this past year. And it's just over the course of fishing tournaments over the years, just kind of, learn from my mistakes, maybe from when I was younger, and you run into situations where things happen. And, the older you get, the more you can kind of prepare for these things and understand the right way to do that.
You say older, but I mean, you're still whooping everybody, and you're younger than me, so making me feel bad.
I'm older than I look. I'm 38. I just turned 38,
Right.
so I look a little younger, but I'm getting up there.
No, man, you're young. I'm 40. You're still doing good.
Thanks.
You got a couple of years and like 100 wins left in you before you make it to
We'll see, man. Tournament fishing's always got its ups and downs, so you never know what's gonna happen, But definitely been on a little bit of a roll lately, so we'll see how long.
A little bit, huh?
Yeah, you can be humble. We'll say it for you. You're above that epic. Yeah, now you're just about to be legendary. So if you keep it up, you're going into. I mean, and I think that's kind of the fun thing about our sport is it's new, and right now there's no doubt that, I mean, 2019 KBF Angler of the Year, you are one of the. I mean, you're at the forefront of what our sport can be. So I appreciate you being humble, but I mean, you're setting the standard right now.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. It's a nice compliment.
So let's, Angler of the Year is no small feat. That's, and when we're talking about Angler of the Year, for the listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Russ's story, we're talking about kayak bass fishing's trail series, right? That's 5 tournaments that goes into the points race, right, for that? Or is it 6 with the championship? 5, right? 3,
It's your best
3,
three of the 5 series
yeah,
events through the year, the regional
regional,
championship, and then the national trail series championship.
right. So you have to be, in order to be Angler of the Year, you have to, out of the nation, have the best top 3 finishes out of the regular season combined with your points from the regional championship and the national championship. And you crushed it. You crushed it. I mean, there was no question at the end of that you just absolutely floored the field. And I was so impressed with you at the championship because that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure going into that event. Not only do you want to win that championship, but you know that Angler of the Year is riding on that. And you were the coolest cat.
Well, going into it, the thing is a lot of the pressure was taken off me, I feel like, because going into it, I was actually 5th place, going into national points. And I mean, I had Cody and Matt Scotch, and it was Derek Brundle. I had 3, really good fishermen ahead of me. So I knew the only way I even had a chance at it was pretty much if I won and all the, 4 guys above me, all 4 guys just happened to stumble. So the odds were definitely against me, and I really didn't put any pressure on myself because I was, and I just won. I think right before that tournament, I just won the state championship for Tennessee. So I was kind of riding that high, and then just going into it, just like, whatever happens, happens. I already had one good tournament right before I got there, and a lot of the pressure.
Yeah, but you were by no means. Yeah, like obviously you're by no means out of it. Like you were definitely someone that everyone was talking about going into that tournament as a potential to win.
I had a chance,
Angler
but
of the
like I
Year.
said, I think I had to beat a lot of guys by like 20 spots. I think Matt Scotch was like 20 places or something like
Yeah.
that. And there's a few, it was a lot of luck involved with just the way the cards fell on that one too. But I mean, I definitely had a solid year, and that, especially towards the end of the season there, finishing strong with that Trail Series championship. And then the momentum kind of carried over into this last tournament at the 10 here too. So it was, I don't know, it'll end eventually, but I'm gonna keep trying to ride this as long as I can.
Maybe you'll be the next. Maybe you'll be the first Jacob Wheeler of the kayak, kayak series. Ding, just dropping bombs left and right all the time. Everyone's always fearful of. I don't know if you guys watched Major League Fishing today, but the dude came into the final period, like 10 pounds behind or something like that, and ended up winning the tournament by like 30 pounds. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Won it by like 30 pounds. He was throwing a Accent River special, his like signature series spinnerbait, like a 1 ouncer, and got on this mega school. And it was just 2 pounder, 3 pounder, 4 pounder, like one after another, just jacking them. It was actually really impressive to watch how he was working that spinnerbait out there. And he wasn't even fishing that deep, but he was just throwing that because they were glued to the bottom. But anyway, enough about Jacob.
Seen some of the highlights for that. I watched the Bassmaster and saw some of the highlights for the MLF, but I had a busy day today, so I wasn't able to watch the championship round there. But it's good to hear Jacob won, man. I'm a fan of his. So
absolutely, yeah. He's here from the home state in Indiana, and always rooting Jacob on. So let's talk a little bit about preparation. So I know that's a big part for you. Tackle prep is key for you, study and all that. So let's maybe just break down your routine going into a tournament. And I know you're getting ready to fish the Hobie Bass Open Series on Lake Fork, so you're in the meat of it right now. It's probably part of your everyday process, I would imagine, at this point, is getting ready for this tournament.
Yeah, just got back from Florida. I'm here for about a week, and trying to get a few things done, doing some work on my truck and stuff. And but yeah, been already studying. Just started kind of watching videos and doing some of the prep work as far as video stuff and map study. and stuff like that for the Lake Fork event. So it'll be my first time, pretty much my first time fishing Texas. I fished the national championship on Canoe, which part of it was in Texas, but I mean, I figure that doesn't really count. So this will be my first, true Texas lake, I feel like. And there's kind of a lot to learn. It seems, pretty similar to a lot of the other southern lakes, a little more standing timber, which will be, something a little different. But yeah, it's got some grass, some docks, and it seems like, somewhere I'll feel comfortable with. But I've been, I guess the first thing I do is really watch any of the archive Bassmaster tournaments or any kind of tournaments that are on TV. I feel like, especially the Bassmaster tournaments, probably give you the best source of information. There's other YouTube videos from local guys and stuff like that, and some good ones actually for Lake Fork too. There's a few local guys there that put on some pretty good YouTube channels. But after kind of researching that, I'll then I'll go on the Google Earth, and while I'm looking at Google Earth, what I'll do actually is I'll take the pod out of my my kayak for my fish finder, and I'll take it out and I'll put it right next to the computer so that when I'm looking at Google Earth, I can actually be marking waypoints, on my fish finder. So I kind of get a little bit of a head start. I'll either mark waypoints from spots that I see guys have fished in the tournaments for Bassmasters. If I see stuff when the lake levels are down, I'll mark some of that stuff. Or if I see some good grass areas where I'll look into archived images for Google Earth as well. And a lot of times you could look, you're going to be there early in the year, but you go into like September, October when the grass is already grown in really well, and you can kind of see those areas where the grass is growing in, even though when you go there in February you won't be able to hardly see any of it because it'll just
maybe some submerged or
but you can get a better towards the fall. So it's good to look at it, when you're looking at Google Earth and satellite images, just looking at all the different archived images from different times of year, and kind of you can learn a lot like that. And between that, the videos, and just looking at all the my Lake Master chip for my hummingbird, and setting all the contour lines, and especially this time of year, you can really learn a lot when you're pre-fishing when you're doing homework during the pre-spawn, because I feel like this time of year is when they're probably the most predictable as far as the areas where you're going to be looking for them, as opposed to maybe later summer or fall when they really spread out, can be anywhere.
You at least know where they're going.
Yeah, you just look for the spawning areas, and then look for any type of either little break or secondary points, and the migration routes are pretty predictable, I feel like. But you got to hit a lot of those areas. It's not like every one of those spots will be good, but if you hit enough of those kind of predictable pre-spawn spots, eventually you'll run into a group. So yeah, after doing all that, then I'll just start prepping all my tackle. Did a lot of work on my garage just for storage, I guess, for all my plastics. I came from the bass boat world, and before I'd have, just like a bunch of Plano boxes with all my plastics, taken out of the bags and already put in the Plano boxes. But I've, learned now over the last few years that that's not really the best system for the kayak thing, because you can't put all that in there, and you don't want to open up a Plano box and grab a bunch of plastics and have it, so it's best, I've learned, just to keep them all in the bags. And then I was putting a bunch of them up on pegboards, but then the problem is each tournament, if I just want a couple packs of something, and there's 15 packs on a peg, I got to take all those off and grab a couple from the back. And so what I've done is I got rid of the pegboards, and I made a bunch of shelves, and basically I'm storing all my plastics now in like these shoebox style plastic bins. And I got all my plastics that were in the Plano boxes. I took all those out and put them all back in the bags, and so now I got all my plastics in these bins. It makes it really easy just to grab a whole bin if I want to take it with me. If I know I'm going to be throwing a lot of Senkos, I'll grab that whole bin. Or Or if I just want a few bags, that way I just open up the bin and I can grab from anywhere rather than trying to get one all the way from the back. It doesn't matter where it is. And some of those I'll just, load up a bunch of gallon-sized Ziploc bags if I don't want to take the whole bin. So yeah, it's been some project I've been working on this year, just trying to get organized a little bit more with my plastics and stuff. And I carry a lot of gear with me when I go to these kayak tournaments, and a lot of times I'll stay in an Airbnb or a motel or something like that. But other times, I'll just want to rather stay in my truck or something like that. So I've been kind of doing some work on that too, just to create some like extra storage. And I ripped out the back seats, and I have these couple big storage bins there now where I can, put all my plastic, and they lock and stuff too. So even though they're inside my truck, just for extra security, all the stuff will be in there locked up as well. So kind of out of sight.
I saw that. I was totally jealous of your setup. It was nice. But man, what kind of boat do you use?
Right now I have a Wilderness Systems Attack 120.
And you get it up on that top Yakima rock.
Yeah. So I did a bunch of work on the truck this year. It's been kind of a big project for me, but I'm just trying to think of ways to be a little more efficient and just hold more gear and all that. So I got one of the Yakima Overhaul HD racks. And then I have a new Topwater like rod holder.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
Box. And that's great. For years I've always just thrown all my rods, right in the passenger seat area. So whoever's sitting there is all crammed. But it's great having it up there. And I actually took the dividers out, so I can fit like 20 rods in that thing.
That's what I was going to ask. It says it'll fit 8, but how many do you? So you fit 20
like
in there, huh?
20. I took out a couple of the middle like little dividers there. And I have probably 12 rods that are rigged with reels, and then I have another couple tubes in there that I can carry about 6 rods in each of those tubes without reels. So I have over 20 rods in that thing. So that makes it a lot easier, and it locks up and stays safe. And then I got one of the big catch units to hold the kayak on top of the rack as well. And for this next tournament, actually, I might bring both kayaks. I'm doing a Hobie tournament here at Fork, and I've always been really comfortable with the Wilderness Systems Attack with the Torpedo and all that. But in the Hobie tournaments, we can't use that Torpedo. Nope. So I won a Titan actually in that last state championship.
Woo, native.
Yeah. So I'll be trying out. This will be my first time running that native. This next couple days here, I gotta do a little bit to rig it up, put a Boondocks gear landing on it, and got one of those upgraded rudders. And
at the which one, the Boondocks or the?
Yeah, the Boondocks one.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's my first time actually ever even getting in a pedal drive. I've never even like borrowed somebody's pedal drive or a Hobie or any kind of thing like that. The only kayak I've ever fished out of has been the one I have, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I'm obviously I have a Titan, so if you have any questions, hit me up. I'll hook you up with the rigging, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I got the 12. So
do you 12? Okay. Yeah, I got the same boat. Is it a 2020 or the 19?
It's a 19. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, same exact one I got.
A good deal. I'm excited about it. So.
They're definitely not the fastest, but I think I've never been in an Attack, so I don't know. But obviously they're super stable. But so many people have done
a lot more gear than my Attack too. Which I'm excited about that. It looks like it's got a lot of storage in that boat, so that'd be nice.
So, and you're still going to get that up on that top rack?
No. So I'm gonna have the Attack up on top, and then the Titan's just gonna be in the bed.
Oh, okay.
So I'll carry both.
I was about to say a prayer for you, buddy.
Yeah, throw out my back.
Now, Russ, do you still have a boat?
I do. I have a Ranger. It's sat in my driveway for it's been 2 years probably since I've run it. I had a busted lower unit for a while, and actually instead of getting a new lower unit, I actually just found a used motor. It took me a while to find. I wanted the exact one that I had, and found that, got that put on there, and it's running right now, but it's kind of a project. I'm going to sell it here eventually, but everything mechanically is working great on it, but it needs like new carpet, new seats, and the gel coat's all faded. So I can't really get crap for it until I put a little work and make it look nice. So,
And see,
but yeah,
and
as
see,
soon as I get that done, I'll be selling it.
that was kind of something I wanted to ask you. Now that you've had, I mean, I came from the boat side, I had a Ranger, and I fished tournaments that way too. Now that you're in kayaks, what's your perspective on it? Because I think I've actually like I kind of turned my nose up a little bit to boats. I'm like, go and see, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with a boat, and I'm sure whenever I get old enough I'll have to have one, but I think I've definitely kind of soured to them. Is that your perspective, or
Um,
do you
yeah, I
want to
mean,
go back
I
one
wouldn't
day, or
sour. Yeah. What's a good way to put it? I guess it's I guess the biggest issue I have with the boats is just the expense of it
yeah,
and just the headache that comes along with it. I mean, a lot of things really. It's just the expense, whether it comes to the gas, the insurance, the registration, especially the maintenance and
yeah,
just
oh yeah,
everything that comes along with that. And then I guess the other thing is just the stress of like having to tow a big giant boat behind you. My truck's just big enough to tow that thing, and it's just harder to break and just more. It's a little more stressful when you're on long trips. I've noticed it's much easier. That's why I don't even have a kayak for trailers. Out of all the problems I had with my boat actually, which I think people would be surprised, but I'd say I had more problems with the trailer
yeah,
than anything else. Just wheel bearings going out, the brakes. I had to replace the brake lines, the axles, the swing away tongue,
the lights for sure,
the lights,
yeah.
everything on it, the master cylinder for the brakes, and so all that's a pain in the butt. And then just getting it whenever I'm in like tournament mode with that thing, if there I'd put it in areas where I probably shouldn't be putting it, areas where I should be putting a kayak rather than a bass boat. But if I thought it gave me a chance to do well in a tournament, I'd put it wherever I had to, bang it up against docks, and just I'd beat the crap out of that thing kind of. But yeah, with the kayak, you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry about washing. I mean, just with a boat, just every time you get off, you gotta like wipe the whole thing down, and
Yeah.
just I've never washed my kayak. I've had it for 3 years, and I actually got a pretty good
I haven't
washing
either.
now that I put it up on this rack, actually on that Yakima rack. It came out pretty clean now. I used to always just carry it in my bed, but got a nice little power washing for the first time.
Yeah, isn't that what you do for a living? You have a power washing business,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
got a 3-year-old dirty kayak.
I know.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess
I
you do it at
know.
work all day. You don't
I
want to come home and do
exactly.
some more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I love it. I love. I mean, another thing about it is just the fact that it's just you out there too, as opposed to when you're doing the boat tournaments. You got somebody else in the boat you're always having to kind of worry about, and sometimes they're just talking your ear off, and you're trying to
Mhm.
concentrate on
Yeah,
fishing or what. I mean, I've met a lot of great people and had good times with people in pro-am or team tournaments too. But I do like just it's a little easier just to kind of get in the zone, and when it's just you out there and you don't have a lot of distractions going on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
are there like I know I think at the last big KBF tournament, not the 10, the one before that, where you won Angler of the Year. At that one, and you were flipping, right? That was a big part of your bait. Are there some techniques that coming from the bass boat side that you haven't mastered, or some like maybe a technique that you can't do as well as what you used to? Maybe punching.
it's harder. Yeah, it's harder to flip out of a kayak for
Yeah,
sure. Especially if you're sitting down. I mean, when I get a chance to, I always stand up in the kayak and flip, but sometimes it's not really an option if there's a little bit of wind or
yeah,
whatever the case, and you gotta, kind of sit down, have that little motor going or whatever the case. But yeah, stuff like that's a little bit more difficult. And at first it was a bit of a challenge, but you get used to it, and just kind of becomes second nature again. I feel like after you've, been in a kayak for a little while, but it is an adjustment for sure.
I, I I really think to me, and I think maybe the bass thing is going to draw a lot more people who didn't look at kayaks before, and they're kind of going to see, well, I can do the same thing, get the same enjoyment, the same competition, get a little bit more exercise probably, and have in a better environment. You feel more one with nature, the camaraderie of all the different anglers. To me, it's just totally been, in the last few years I've been doing it, it's just a totally different experience, and I enjoy it more than going 60 up and down, from dam to dam, wasting a bunch of gas, and
And what I've learned is
I love it.
I fish better. Kayak fishing has 100% made me a better angler too, because it's really opened my eyes to see that you don't need to, on a bass boat, you'd be fishing a tournament and you pre-fish all these areas, and it's like, oh, it's not working here. You give it an hour, like, oh, it's not working. Let me run all the way 20 miles over here. Oh, it's not working. And then, I've learned now that in kayak tournaments, I've really learned to keep an open mind. And a lot of times when you launch, and if your fish that you found in pre-fish aren't going, you just got to refigure them out. A lot of times, that's another thing I do is when I'm fishing areas for tournaments, I make sure that they're areas where there's options available. So if plan A doesn't work, it's like, all right, I got a plan B that can do this, or plan C. Give yourself lots of options. But in most cases, I think just about every I think I've done 50 kayak tournaments, and I've only had maybe one or two that I didn't get a limit. And if I go back into all the bass boat tournaments I did, I'd say like 30% of them I probably didn't get a limit. And so I've been way more consistent fishing out of a kayak, and just learning that if you keep an open mind and just refigure out your area, a lot of times that's the smartest thing to do.
Yeah, with those numbers, don't ever go back. Just rule this.
Yeah.
So what's you're talking about plan A, plan B, plan C. That's a big part of tournament preparation, really a big part of practice, right? So when you start deciphering where you're going to go, the areas that you're going to target, you're talking about looking for something that has multiple options. What are some of those things that you're looking for? Let's get a little more detailed, right? Like, what are you looking for in a particular area when you're doing your map study and you're watching video to help you find that area you're going to target?
I guess one of the big things is just having deep water access near your area. I like doing a lot of shallow water fishing. I prefer to fish for them up shallow, but if I am fishing a shallow area, I'm also going to be paying attention to where those breaks are and where that deep water access is. I guess that's the big thing, is during weather changes and stuff like that. Fish can move in the water column. Shallow fish can move deep, or if you're catching deep fish and it gets warm or something like that in the spring, then they'll move up. So just having those areas where they can, the deeper water spots and the shallow stuff, and then different pieces of cover, I guess, too. Whether you might be getting them on the, on some breaks out on rock or something like that, and you see a bunch of wood up shallow, and they might not be on the wood quite yet, but at least you have that there in the back of your mind is something you can do if what you're doing isn't working, whether it's wood or rock or grass, all those points or breaks or just anything that can hold fish, but having a variety of different things rather than just like one, big giant grass flat with nothing else around it at all but a bunch of grass and no breaks, no wood, no rock, no docks. Just having just all those different elements is important when you're trying to find a good area to practice during a tournament.
So did you find it pretty difficult to find that at your last event there at the Kissimmee chain?
You won $10,000.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. So the Kissimmee chain, I was just at a couple weeks ago here, a week and a half ago, we could fish any of the, I guess, 4 or 5 lakes in the Kissimmee chain: Kissimmee, Toho, Cypress, Hatchinaha, and I guess Tigers connected to it too. And then there's a bunch of other little lakes that we can fish as well. And I went into it, kind of wanting to fish the big lakes because I know what they're capable of. The BASS record was caught out at Toho. It was like 46 pounds or something. So obviously when those lakes are on, there's no place in the world that can compete with that. But it was a pretty tough bite out there, and there was a big Bassmaster Open the weekend before. I think there was 250 boats, and there was only a couple weights over 20 pounds. So that told me right there that, those bigger lakes are fishing a little bit tough. And when I was out there pre-fishing, I'd fished some areas and on Kissimmee and Toho, and it was a struggle. There's just so much dead water out in Florida, I feel like, too. And it's just like, and a lot of it just all looks the same. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack. And, the smaller lake, that's what I ended up fishing during a tournament, was a smaller lake. And it was just a little less intimidating. And I knew there was fish in there somewhere. So I figured just through a process of elimination, eventually, I'd figure something out, as opposed to, looking at these big giant lakes and knowing, with how much dead water there is, it can be difficult to really pinpoint a good area.
And I know it's been talked about before, but the way you compete in that event, number one, not only you went from 91.25 the first day and increased the second day to 175 and ended up with 192, but you didn't just win it, you whooped them by 14.75, and just, I think, everything else you've done, it has to be impressive. Like, going into it, did you feel a certain way? Because you're going to make a check. How did that change the game for you in that tournament for you? Did you just go, like you said, you looked at a smaller area because there was so much, but did you go in like, I'm going to do whatever I want to, I'm going to fish how I want to because I'm getting paid? Or
Yeah, so I mean, anytime you're going to get paid, no matter what, you can kind of just swing for the fences, and it definitely takes the pressure off. And they did an amazing job, just went above and beyond, what anybody could have dreamt of, as far as just taking care of all of us up there. They had this big giant mansion, and everybody got their own bedroom, and they had, all the food was catered every day. They had lunches packed for us, and it was crazy. And all that, just the combination of all that, really just kind of gives it more relaxing environment, and everybody knows that they're getting paid. So yeah, it made it for a really enjoyable time. And yeah, what was the question that I was trying to answer?
Like, how did, more than a regular tournament where you're going, you're trying to get paid and you're going out and you want to do the best you can, did you go into it a little bit different because you knew you were going to make a check? How did that change your strategy?
Yeah, I guess I answered it then. I was just kind of swinging for the fences, and I said the pressure was off, and I was just really just trying to enjoy all of it and have the best time. And however it ended up, I was going to be just fine with that. Definitely, I'm happy with the way it did end up.
Yeah, probably.
But either way, I would have.
What point did it switch from, I'm going to be happy with however it ends up, to, I got a chance to win this thing and I'm going to put the pedal to the metal?
I'm always trying 100% when I'm out. I'm always fishing dawn to dusk, and when I get off the water, I'm prepping for the next day, and I try to work as hard as I can and be as useful with my time as I can possibly be. And it's, I mean, it was probably the second day pre-fishing where it was kind of gradual. I decided not to do the 10 Invitational, which was the tournament, right before, basically, to get into the 10. I was already in the 10, so I didn't necessarily need to fish the 10 Invitational. I think about half the guys did, half the guys didn't. And I just rather focus my time on having a little extra time for pre-fishing. And, if I catch something, I'm not going to be tempted to beat those fish up. I can just kind of leave them alone. And sometimes it's more useful just to eliminate water during pre-fish rather than catching fish,
I would have been worried about that too, fishing the 10 Invitational. I don't know how unless you just happen to have two great areas, how do you not burn your fish in the 10 Invitational?
Yeah, that's kind of the way I was looking at it. And it's, I mean, some people just used it as, they just said, said they were going to pre-fish just like they normally would, but it's hard when you're still competing in a tournament and there's money on the line. If you catch a couple fish in the area and you should leave, and you would leave if you were just regularly pre-fishing. But being in a tournament, it puts yourself in a situation where it's going to make that a little more difficult. But yeah, during as the tournament progressed, I found an area. I had some confidence in it. Wasn't getting a lot of pressure from bass boats. It wasn't on the Kissimmee chain. It was one of the other smaller lakes, and it wasn't until probably a couple days before I kind of thought it had winning potential as long as it didn't get pressure from other guys. It wasn't a big area. And I said those fish weren't pressured at all. So if I got something in front of them, they were really willing to bite. And after the first day of the tournament, though, I was a little worried. Actually, I'd caught them all because a lot of the fish that I caught that first day, I actually saw it was really shallow water, and I saw a lot of those same fish a couple days before when I was pre-fishing. And that second day of the tournament, overnight on the second day, a bunch of bigger females moved in overnight, which is, that's what you wish for.
The dream, yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened. I had it all to myself, and it was just, man, it's crazy how that kind of happens that way. Yeah, because I've had a lot of situations where it's just the other way around. You find all these big fish, weather changes, and everything's gone. And it seems like last few tournaments, it just everything just keeps working out.
And one thing I do have to ask, I know if I would have been in that house, maybe I'm an a-hole, but I would have been like given misinformation. Was there like mind games going on, or was it just everybody cool?
Everybody was pretty cool. There wasn't too much of that. I'd say
I'd be telling people wrong colors.
Were a little protective. I was kind of telling, I was pretty honest with what I was doing. I told a couple people I went to that lake, but I wasn't like hyping it up, even though I was like, oh, this has potential. I was just like, yeah, I caught a few here, and went to a couple of other small lakes, and I caught some there too. But one in particular I felt like had the most potential, and but I didn't want to. Like I said, I had it pretty much myself until that first day of the tournament. Ken Wood, he was the leader after the first day. He ended up going to that lake just on a whim. Just decided he didn't have a really good pre-fish, and he just decided, why not? Let's start the tournament at this lake. And so yeah, he had a good finish as well.
Cool.
Nice. All right, so I know another thing that, and we're kind of bouncing around a little bit here, but I know another thing that you're really big on, and you started to touch a little bit on it with the soft plastics, right, is tackle preparation, and gear prep. You want to dive into that a little bit, why it's so important to you, and some of those key things that you do throughout, your tournament preparation throughout your season, when it comes to gear and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I try to do a lot to take care of my tackle. A lot of my plastics, I'll save them when I'm done and I'll use mend it and re-glue them all and stuff every few months. I'll just put a bunch of them aside. And so try to be really good about that. Try to be really good about not having water and stuff like that getting into my Plano boxes for my hard baits. And a lot of the hard bait boxes that I have, I only store hooks on, about 25% of the baits or so, just so I can fit more in there. And that way I know I always, the hooks that are in there, I know are always really sharp and new. And if they get worn out, I'll just throw those hooks away. And it makes it easier to get baits out. They don't get tangled and stuff. And it's pretty easy for me to swap the hooks on the split rings. And
I heard about all this with the split rings. Somebody needs to get this man like a sponsor with Gerber, so you can get like some splizzers or some
I can do it faster with my thumbnails. If you got the right split rings on there, as long as they're they need to be strong enough where they're not going to bend out, but as long as they're not too stiff, I can open them up with my fingernail, and I can change out 2 hooks in probably less than 30 seconds, I'd say. But yeah,
that's cool.
I'll go through and make sure I got good split rings on all the hooks, and a lot of my tackle and stuff I make myself. All my jigs, spinner baits, buzz baits, anything with a skirt on it, pretty much.
And so why is that? Let's talk about that. Is that just to be a little more frugal
Yeah,
Or is
I
that
mean,
because you're very particular about, you know, how they're crafted? You know, what is it? What goes into that decision to make versus purchase?
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a little bit of initial investment in the beginning, but it's definitely paid for itself. I buy them wholesale for like, jig heads or spinnerbait head, whatever, for about 100. You got to buy a minimum of 100 pack. So last year, while some of the jigs, I've gone through quite a few of them, spinnerbaits and buzz baits, and that stuff lasts a little longer. Um, but yeah, it's not only just the cost aspect of it, but it really allows you to really learn that bait and be able to dial it in and learn all the different, with the spinner bait, for instance. When I order them, there's like 10 different head designs to choose from, and I've used a few different head designs. So you kind of learn, all right, what does this head do? What does that head do? And you can change the diameter of the wire to different thicknesses, and obviously the blade sizes. There's a lot of different components. I mean, a spinnerbait's a good example of just all the different components: the hook size, the blade size, even the length of wire, from the head to that first bend where you tie on the line tie. Just like messing with that and adjusting that, it'll give it different vibration. And so all those little components really, if you're making them yourself, you really get a good understanding, as opposed to when you're just buying them off a store. And that way too, sometimes you buy a spinnerbait off a store, you get some confidence in it, and a few years later they stop making that spinnerbait, and then you got to go to another one. So just by using the same stuff for such a long period of time, I can really kind of dial it in. I know the right trailers to put on things, the right the right weights, all that stuff.
So starting your own tackle company in your future?
I don't want to say. Yeah, people always ask me to they can buy the stuff, but it's not. I've calculated it, and I'd probably only be making about $15-20 an hour, and which isn't bad. But I'd rather spend that. I can power wash and make more money, and so I guess that makes sense. But yeah, it's something I enjoy too. I couldn't do it all the time. Usually I get all that done in the winter. I've been doing a lot of lure making, I guess, earlier this year. Lately, now I'm just about in full tournament mode. So I wish I had a few more weeks to get some more stuff done. But yeah, it's going to be difficult at this point.
Well, you got 10 grand. You can buy a few things if you have to.
I can't. I just got to pay somebody to make them like I do, I guess.
Right.
I was going to ask you, I heard you saying before how you're a small business guy and that's what you do. Is there, and you were looking maybe from your winnings, maybe you'd be able to go full time. Is that something that maybe that
Yeah.
can kind of put you in?
I own a power washing business. I've been doing power washing close to like 20 years now, I guess. I started out when I was a kid working for another guy and started my own business right about 20 years old. So I'm 38 now. So the last 18 years I've owned my own business, and it's been nice. It's business is low overhead. It's just me at this point. I've had times in the past where I've had a few employees and stuff, but you might make a little more money that way. It's also a lot more stress, and you're having to, people are dependent on you, and you're dependent on, it's just easier just doing it just myself, and I can kind of, like I said, turn the business on and on when I want, and I get enough calls. I can kind of pick and choose my jobs I want to do, and it's great if you're going to pursue something like these tournaments, to have something like that. But like I said, you just don't want to. You try to build something. I see a lot of other friends that build these, their construction type businesses so big that they can't. They're married to it. They can't get away anymore at that point. So try to keep it simple. Try to keep my living expenses as low as I can. I'm living here in Nashville, and I got 2 other roommates. We're still renting the house that we're in, but it's it's just a pretty simple house, and my expenses and overhead is pretty low. So so I've had some money saved over the last few years, and because of the winnings that I've had for these last few tournaments. So I probably won't be power washing too much this year. I'm gonna try to go full force into these kayak tournaments and see where it takes me. We'll see.
Heck yeah, man.
Agreed. I like it. I like it. So, let's talk about going forward real quick. Well, you've got Angler of the Year. You're a 10 champion. What's next? What's where do you set the goals now?
I mean, everything I've done, all of my accomplishments for the most part have been through KBF. So I still, there's still a lot out there for me to try to accomplish this year as far as, trying to do well in a Hobie event. And I mean, making it to Hobie Worlds would be, I mean, that would be amazing. And now with these new Bassmaster tournaments that they have coming this year, it looks like they're gonna, the first one coming up in Logan Martin. They're already talking over 150 anglers, and I mean that's just super exciting to see that. And I think everybody, all the anglers and everybody in this industry right now is just really excited for the future and what this year has in store.
Yeah, and a couple big names on the roster for Logan Martin. Some names that we're all familiar with, but don't often see in tournaments.
It's like AJ and Chad.
And Fluke, and though Fluke has done a couple, Fluke getting into the game.
He's not too far away. He could come over here and put a hurting on him, I'm sure.
He got him down in Florida. I got to spend some time with him. He's doing some of the video stuff down there at the 10 house, and a big group of us went over to Kenansville and did some fishing there. And he put a whacking on him there. I think he got like 42 pounds for his best 5. And so, I mean, he can obviously catch him, no doubt.
Yeah, he's not just a YouTube name. I mean, Gene can straight up whoop him.
Yep. Yeah, and I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see Chad compete.
Yeah.
We've seen him out there, coming around with a camera crew and fishing around when we're fishing and that sort of thing. But to see Chad, gosh, I don't know that I've ever seen him in a tournament. I know he's been in some,
I fished
but
a tournament against him once. One of our local club events. He fished one of our local club events, and he did pretty well, but I think he forgot to put a sticker on his hog trough and ended up getting disqualified.
Right. Well, I could see that, not because he's not in the tournament routine, so to go out there and actually practice it is totally different. And he's going to have a lot on his mind, definitely with everything that's going on with Christy and his mom right now. He's going to have a lot on his mind. So I just hope that he can actually still be there and competing. But I think it's going to be cool, such a large field and the caliber of anglers that we're seeing signing up for this. It's kind of like, an elite level KBF event or these big Hobie events, this championship style or championship, guess what's the word I'm looking for here, guys? Caliber like these that higher caliber anglers mixing in with everybody is going to be kind of cool to see how everyone performs and competes against it.
See if there's some other guys from the boating world that come over as well. I'm guessing there's probably a few new faces this year that nobody really knows about are gonna do pretty well. We'll see.
There's a couple of local guys. I've been watching the names because I'm worried about them getting in. And I haven't seen them on there yet. Like Joey Narnia from Narnia from it's not Narnia. I'm thinking that movie, but the guy who's
good movie.
He does a Sweetwater show. He's a guide on Logan Martin, and I've been whooped by him before on Logan Martin. I'd be worried if he was in it. There's a few local guys. I've been looking for names and seeing if they show up.
Really?
Yeah. I haven't seen them yet. I'm worried though.
You always think about the local guys, but so often the local guys, though they seem to do well, they don't. It's not often that the local guy ends up winning the tournament, and that's throughout the industry. And I don't know what it's just. it doesn't matter how much knowledge and how much practice you put in. There are a lot of factors that play into it, and there's just so many good sticks,
Yeah.
in the game. You never know. But you'd be silly not to bet for Russ, because Russ is getting it
Has
done.
the momentum.
Sure.
Yeah.
He does. So, all right. Well, man, I really appreciate your time and coming on the show tonight. I think we've covered a lot with you and have a better understanding of who you are as an angler now. But before we say goodbye, I want to give you an opportunity. I'll give all our guests this opportunity to thank anybody you want to thank, man.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on the show and giving me the opportunity to talk with you tonight. It was,
You can come back
definitely
after the
enjoyed
next win. I'm sure you'll have another one soon.
I hope I get a chance to come back. It means I'm doing good if that's the case, but I'll see how long I can keep it up. But
Maybe this time
yeah.
you won't put us off like a week and a half. No.
Last time I had to go, I was out in last win I had in Wisconsin. I ended up the next day. I flew out to California, and I was like way up in the mountains. So I didn't have service, and then I ended up getting like a tooth infection. It was my God, it was a mess. But yeah, things are going better now. So that's good. But yeah, I'd also like to thank my sponsors, iRod Fishing and Hook One Outfitters, and they've really stepped up and just did a lot for me. I've been with them for a couple years now, but with all the success I've had, they've really stepped up and been helping me out, and they're both just a couple awesome companies who I'm going to continue to work hard to help promote their brand. And Yakima is another one. They're not necessarily a sponsor, but I got a buddy who does some of the mechanical engineering and stuff for them. He actually created the topwater rod storage box there, so they hooked me up with one of those, and
Nice.
I've really been liking that as well. So,
Very cool.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Man, being on that Hook One team, you have to convince them to build one in Birmingham. Tell them to come on.
They
bring one
They
down.
need to expand. They got their second location up here, but I mean that would be a good spot for it, probably. I think
It's wide
Alabama.
open.
Yeah. All right, I'll put the word in for sure.
Yep.
There you go.
Well, thanks,
All
man, and good luck on Fork, and good luck, Logan Martin, and
I'll see you guys. You guys both gonna be at Logan Martin?
Probably. I'm still.
Probably.
Yeah,
What?
I haven't signed up yet. I want to. I'm going.
Clock's ticking. You got like 5 days, man.
Oh my goodness, probably.
I got whooped so bad at Seminole. I still got a bad taste.
Got to be a part of history, man. It's the first one.
I know.
It's gonna be.
You got whooped at Seminole, but like, don't you live a whole 5 minutes from Logan Martin?
An hour. I'm not right there, but I'm pretty.
That's
close.
pretty close. That's pretty close.
Fishing should be better too. I heard Seminoles is pretty brutal fishing.
Yeah. Well, we had one that we had somebody who had third place, and he did okay, and we were fishing at the same launch, so I felt even worse after that.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that's just one.
You can't
one
let it
setback.
get you down.
Oh, I know, it'll be all
Get
right.
up on that horse, keep going.
Starting to sound like Ryan Milford now. You gonna sell all your gear too?
Don't put me in that boat.
Love you, Ryan. Well, hey Russ, before you head off, man, let everybody know where they can follow you and stay in touch with you and check out this pimpin' truck you got going on and the build there and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, you can find me either Instagram or Facebook at Rus Snyders. The Rus is spelled with one S, R-U-S, and then Snyders, S-N-Y-D-E-R-S.
There you go. Got it. Go give them a follow, like, comment, share. Do you have a YouTube? No YouTube?
I've posted a little bit. Also, Rus Snyders on that, but I haven't really done a whole lot with that yet.
All right, go subscribe, comment on there. Tell Russ that he needs to get his video game in check and start pumping out content. So, all right, Russ.
Sam, Dan, it was great. It was a pleasure, and you guys have a good one. We'll do it again soon, hopefully.
Absolutely. We'll see
you
you
out there, man.
All right, take care.
Later. All right. It's just me and you now.
All right.
So hold on though. Before we start talking to our listeners about this other stuff, man, you gonna bail on me?
No, I'm
Logan
still.
Martin?
No, I think I'm going to fish it. Well,
Okay.
I have some. There's some family stuff going on too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I have somebody who, if y'all want to say prayers, just somebody in my family not doing good, so I'm kind of
Oh,
watching that too.
well, absolutely. My family will definitely be praying for yours, man. I hate to hear that.
Yeah. But
Well, I
I will
hope.
say for anybody, the weekend before Iron City, you can look us up on Iron City Kayak Anglers. We're going to have a tournament the Saturday before on Logan Martin. So if you're out there practicing, if you come that early and you want to come fish a little bit, you're welcome to come fish with us. It's only $30, and we only do 3 fish limit, so it's
That's
fun. We
on
usually have about 30 guys.
that's on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday before.
Ooh, I might have to leave a day earlier. I was thinking about leaving on Saturday morning, but I might have to leave Friday night and come sleep at a ramp and get out there and fish. That sounds
Do
like
it.
fun.
Yep.
All right, so we got to talk about some tourney recaps here, man. So last week we had Kurt fill in for you as we
Yeah.
talked about upcoming tournaments, and we've got a couple. We had 3 on there, but for some reason the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass Fishing League tournament, the link's not working for me. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. I don't know if that tournament got pulled off for some reason or what. So the other 2 was Queen City. Our previous guest, Vinny. Yep, Vinny was hosted a tournament for the Queen City Kayak Anglers last weekend. So we kind of go over those results real quick. Let me get that pulled up for us. Queen City, awesome group out there in the Carolinas, fishing North Carolina, South Carolina area. They were on a lake called, let me see if I can find it again here. Lake Murray. We know that lake. We've seen that one a few times at the elite level, right? So their tournament, they ended up having, let's see how many anglers they ended up having. Looks like over 50. Wow, 70, 80, 85 anglers signed up for this event in February. And wow, that's awesome. That's a great turnout. So Vinny's doing it right if you listen to our previous podcast with him. Big bass, 22.5 inches.
Launched. Donkey slapper.
Wow. Jared, oh man, Kimak, I don't know. Jared K of Lake Wiley area, South Carolina, with a 22.5 incher. Now, it does look like about half the field blanked. And then the rest of the field coming in at 1, 2, and 3 fish. There was only, and now again, Queen City only runs a 4 fish limit.
4 fish, yeah.
4 fish limit. So there was only 3 limits caught. Third place, Chris Goodwin. Know that name, recognize that name. North Carolina kayak angler. Came in with 63.25 inches. His big bass was 18.25. Awesome job, Chris. And then another last name I'm not going to try and pronounce. So PC is the first name coming up here. Was 68.25. Big bass was 17.75. And then the winner was David Golding with 69 inches. Big bass at 21.25. So super impressive there. Nice 4 fish bag. That's 69 inches even. So shout out to David Golding for taking the W there with Queen City. And then the other tournament that we had is also not coming up, which I don't know what's going on with that.
I was having issues too. I couldn't give them to work.
So apologize to the guys of Southeast Texas and the Oklahoma kayak anglers. For some reason, we're having trouble pulling up your tournament results. So can't really go over those. Bummer.
Somebody won.
Somebody won. Somebody did an awesome job. Somebody caught a big fish.
Somebody probably zeroed.
Somebody zeroed. So, yeah, that's kind of how it goes. But, all right, as far as upcoming tournaments, this is kind of a dead week. There's not really a whole lot going on out there. When you take a look at Tourney X, we're kind of in between. It is getting ready to get hot and heavy, though. Hobie Bass Open Series in 2 weeks. And then Logan Martin, and then Pro Tour, then Hobie, then Bass, then Logan Martin, or KBF. You know, it just goes on from there and gets hot and heavy as soon as we hit that March time frame. So we will we'll talk a little bit about the Lake Fork event in our next episode, and then we'll kind of go from there. Get ready. It's gonna get fun.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening in. We'll catch you on the next episode of The Reel Down. Until then, be safe and
wear your PFDs.
That's right. Later.
Go check out the website, guys. Paddle, the letter N and fin.com. Also check out YouTube, youtube.com/paddle and fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest, feel free to email us at paddle, the letter N and fin @gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We're doing giveaways, announcements, things like that at Facebook and Instagram at Paddle and Fin. Shout out to our show supporters, Rocktown Adventures, Loveland Canoe and Kayak, Hammered Lures, Fish Mob Lures, TRC Covers, Ketch Products. Go to ketchproducts.com. You could put the Paddle and Fin logo right on your catch board. Don't forget to go over and pick up your JigMasters Jigs. Use promo code PNF20 and save 20% today. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to. It helps grow the audience, helps others find our podcast. So please drop a 5-star rating in on the podcast platform you're listening on. Don't forget about the recycled plastics program, you guys. Take your used plastic baits, put them in an envelope, mail them to the address in the show notes. Our man Eric Richards at Hammered Lures melts those down, makes new baits, and donates them to various chapters of Heroes on the Water.